it's going to be heavier. So the damage from that round would be more than a .22 caliber round. Does that make sense?
What kind of handgun does law enforcement usually carry?
9mm generally. At ATF we carry 9mm. Most of the departments and agencies I work with carry 9mm.
And do you know why?
Your Honor, I would object to relevance.
How is it relevant?
It goes to the power and the use for a 9mm versus the weapon that the two handguns that James Crumbly already owned.
I guess I would have normally agreed with you, but we've heard testimony in this trial that the shooter was intent, even after the family owned two other guns, on having his father buy a 9mm. So I'm going to allow it.
Thank you. Can you tell the jury why law enforcement usually carries a 9mm, or you do with ATF?
Sure.
If you know.
Sure. So my understanding, based on the reasoning that ATF uses and other agencies, is that it's a powerful round that could be used to neutralize a threat. It's not going to over-penetrate, and the advancements in ballistics have made a 9mm the ideal round for law enforcement for using in defense.
And to put this into context, the hundreds of shooting investigations that you've conducted or have been a part of, are those done normally with a .22 or 9mm or something else? If you can say
Sure.
generally.
I don't think I can't recall working a shooting with more than one victim involving a .22 caliber firearm. I can't recall several shootings that I've worked in the past where multiple victims involving a 9mm.
All right, thank you. I'm going to put this back in the evidence box and hand it to Lieutenant Willis, who is in charge of...
Attorney, may we approach, please?
While they take that sidebar break, let's squeeze in a break of our own, get you back inside of that courtroom for more testimony in the case against James Crumbly. Stay with us. Back now to Michigan for the school shooter dad trial for James Crumbly. He's the defendant, and he's facing 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter for his alleged role in the Oxford High School shooting committed by his son back in 2021. Let's get you back into the courtroom now, where the jury is hearing from a special agent with ATF, Brett Brandon.
All right, I'm going to now introduce Exhibit 164, and okay, what is this?
That's the Cobra ENT Classic 2-shot 22 caliber Derringer purchased by Mr. Crumbly. I believe he paid for it on the 15th of June of 2021 and picked it up on the 16th of June 2021.
Okay, and this is pretty small.
Yes.
Okay, so what is this used for, typically, if you know? And how many rounds can it hold?
It can hold 2 rounds. I mean, in today's, I don't know if I can say exactly what it's used for. People use firearms for very different purposes, but you know, I know that that's been used in the past for a variety of different things.
Okay. Thank you. And again, this was purchased when, if you know?
It was June 16th of 2021.
Okay. And that was 164. Okay, 165. Okay. And this is 165. And again, do you know what this is?
Yes, that's the Kel-Tec P17 22 caliber pistol purchased by Mr. Crumbly on June 17th of 2021.
Okay, and if you know, was this weapon made safe by you or somebody else before I handle it?
Yes.
And how was it made safe?
When I was going through the from the last trial, cutting off zip ties and putting new ones on, I racked the slide 3 times, made sure there was no round in the chamber, and then myself and Lieutenant Willis installed zip ties on firearms.
Okay, so there's a zip tie in this?
Yes.
Okay. And again, can you tell the jury what this is? What caliber weapon is this?
Yes, that's a 22 caliber pistol.
Okay. And in a moment, we're going to see the defendant's son handling a video. Is this the weapon that he was handling in that video?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to hand this to you because I'd like you to explain to the jury how to safely handle this weapon in terms of what the safety means on and off. Can you do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. So this is the Kel-Tec P17 pistol. So it's not an official phrase, but it's what one a lot of people use is red means dead. So when the safety is off, you can see the red dot. So to gauge the safety, you have to, put the safety up. I don't think it's going to do that now with the, it'll go up now. Yeah, with the zip tie, sometimes it's hard to get the sliding all the way forward. But now the safety would be engaged. So if you pull the trigger, it's not supposed to fire. And when you come back down, that means red means dead. That means the safety is off.
Okay. And that is this also? Do you use a magazine with this gun?
Yes.
Okay. And how many rounds, if you know, does that hold?
16 rounds in the chamber, 1 round in the in the magazine, 1 round in the chamber for a total of 17.
Okay. Were there any gun cases recovered in the home?
Yes.
All right. I'm handing you what's People's Exhibit 166. Can you tell the jury what that is?
Yes, this is the pistol case that goes with the Kel-Tec P17 pistol that I was just holding. It was located in the kitchen under the, the island in the kitchen of the Crumley residence.
Okay. And can you, if you wouldn't mind standing and showing how that is opened and what it looks like?
And this is the 6-hour, the cable lock that comes with the 6-hour pistol that was
We're going to get to that.
inside the Kel-Tec box.
So this is proposed exhibit 42. This case was this cable lock found in this case?
Yes.
Okay. And you said it was located in the kitchen?
Yes.
Where exactly in the kitchen, if you know?
I believe it was one of the cabinets underneath the island of the kitchen, or a kitchen cabinet.
Okay. Was there any gun in it?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
That's the Kel-Tec box, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
This is the Kel-Tec box, 166. All right. And was there any other case found in the home?
Yes, one
Gun
other.
case. Okay. I want to just make the distinction here. Is there a difference between a gun case and a gun safe?
Yes.
Okay. What is it? And when I'm saying safe, I mean a portable safe.
Sure. So a gun case is generally what comes from the manufacturer, or sometimes a gun store, if they're selling you a used firearm, will use an old gun case to give with you. But the Kel-Tec box I was just holding has 2 holes in it that can be locked. That's a gun case. That's what comes with the purchase of a firearm, specifically a handgun most of the time.
Is this what you're talking about?
Yes, there are holes on both sides that a locking mechanism could be run through to lock the case itself.
Did you find any of those locking mechanisms, or was it found just like this?
There were no locking mechanisms in it when it was found.
Okay. I'm going to hand you People's Exhibit 167. And you might have to stand to show the jury so they can connect. What do you know what that is?
Yes, this is it's a small pistol safe. So it's got a combination lock and. So it would just, you close the lock, it's typical your standard combination lock. You close it, spin the dial, and have your combination code.
And do you know where that was found in the house?
Yes, it was in the on a TV stand in the Crumley, Mr. and Mrs. Crumley's bedroom on the right-hand side inside of a cabinet.
All right. And was there anything in it?
Yes.
What was in it?
So there was the Kel-Tec P17 pistol as well as a Derringer 2-shot 22 caliber handgun as well, both inside this safe.
And that was the small gun that we just showed the jury, correct?
Correct. Yeah, they both fit in here.
And then the Kel-Tec that you just showed them with the safety.
Yes.
Those 2 weapons.
That's
okay.
correct.
So,
This one, hold down here.
There's a combination on this thing,
Yes.
and do you know what the combination was?
Well, I know what it is. I just opened it. It's 000.
Okay, was this the combination at the time when this safe was found?
Yes.
Okay. Does the SIG fit in that gun case?
It does not.
The gun SIG.
It does not fit.
Even if it's just by itself without any other handgun?
Correct.
Okay. Was there any other case found in the home?
Yes.
And I'm going to hand you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 41. And what is this?
This is the.
Go ahead.
Thank you. This is the Sig Sauer SP 2022, the murder weapon. This is the pistol case that would have came with it. Similar to the Kel-Tec, it does have 2 holes to be locked as well.
Okay. And I'm going to open that. And where was this found, if you know?
This was found on the on top of the bed in the Mr. and Mrs. Crumley's bedroom.
Was there anything in it?
At the time, no, it looked like this.
Okay. Was there anything underneath the phone?
I learned later that there was, yes.
Okay. Do you want to tell the jury what that was?
Yes. So there is a receipt for the SP 2022 from the gun store in Oxford, as well as the ATF Youth Handgun Safety Act notice pamphlet that was previously discussed.
Okay. And is that something they have to provide?
Yes.
All right. Special Agent Brandon, what was your reaction to finding that? When did you find that the pamphlet was in here? If you know.
For this pamphlet, I found that this was in the case during preparation for the trial of Mr. Crumley's wife.
And did you know where it was up until that point?
Your Honor, I would object to relevance on this line of questioning.
About where it was? Mm-hmm. I guess I don't really understand the question, where that box was?
So I don't want to put words in his mouth, but as an offer of proof, it was not clear to Special Agent Brandon, based on the crime scene and the search of the home, where the ATF pamphlet was that he knew must have had to have been sold with this gun. And he picked up the phone and saw it sometime after, is what he's saying.
Okay.
So not the case itself, Your Honor, but the pamphlet that was within the case along with the receipt. I'm objecting to the relevance of questionings about that, not the case itself.
Okay, well, I think the pamphlet being sold with the gun is relevant, and its location in the home is relevant, so I'm going to overrule the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I'm going to ask him about the pamphlet and ask to read excerpts of the pamphlet, and I know that opposing counsel actually asked Ed Wagrowski to do that, so I'm hoping there's not an objection, but I can lay a proper foundation if there is.
Okay, now I don't know if he answered the question about where he found the
He didn't.
pamphlet.
Thank you, Your Honor. What was your reaction to that?
To finding the pamphlet?
Yes.
So when I lifted up the phone and saw the pamphlet in there, I was shocked.
Okay, why?
Yeah, as the pamphlet says on the front, it says Youth Handgun Safety Act notice. Means they were on notice. They had to pick this up and move it to the back of that gun case and basically discard it underneath the phone.
Okay, and can you tell the jury what's the purpose of the law requiring that pamphlet to be given to someone purchasing a gun?
The purpose of it, do you want me to read from it?
First, I want you to tell me the purpose, and then I want you to read it.
So the purpose of the pamphlet is to inform the buyer of the firearm that juvenile gun violence is a major problem, and that safely securing your firearm will prevent that from happening.
Okay, and if you open it up, where does it refer to that?
So on the first page it says Youth Handgun Safety Act notice, and there's 4 bullet points. The first says the misuse of handguns is a leading contributor to juvenile violence and fatalities. And the second one says safely storing and securing firearms away from children will help prevent the unlawful possession of handguns by juveniles, stop accidents, and save lives.
That pamphlet front and center in front of this jury, the Youth Handgun Safety Act notice that was inside the case of that gun, that Sig Sauer that was purchased just 4 days before this deadly shooting. Let's bring in National Trial Attorney Michael Jaafar standing by. Michael, your thought on that pamphlet and the contract almost that it creates just by being there? Shaking your head, no, it's not enough notice for liability for homicide?
No, I'm shaking my head because as a defense attorney, my heart sunk into my chair because if I'm in that courtroom and that courtroom's only 20 minutes away from my house, I would say we've lost. We're done, right? That was a dagger. That was an absolute dagger. I've always said the burden of proof for gross negligence is very easy to overcome when people die. It technically should be the same as if you sprain your ankle, but it's not, right? It's very easy to overcome, and she just overcame it. I really want to see what the defense are going to say, right? I mean, because the gun lock was never taken out of its case, right? It's one thing if he could come in and say, my cheating wife took the gun lock that I put on when she was with her boyfriend, and they took it out. They took my gun to the range. He slept at his house, not at my house. And then he woke up and he went to the school. That's one thing, but we know that he's not going to be able to say that because the gun lock was never taken out of its case. It's done. That was a dagger. And by the way, Julia, at the beginning of his testimony, I was thinking to myself, what's the relevance of having an ATF agent? It seems to me like they're basically prosecuting the same case that they would prosecute if the killer was in the courtroom, because this is a one-of-a-kind case, right? So I was wondering, why is this ATF agent in there? They must be trying a different case. Now I know why. She was just buttering it up to the end. And like you said, it's like a contract that he entered into when he bought that gun for a minor. Mind-blowing.
Yeah, you said it. That this seemed to be one where, okay, we know the gun was used for the shooting, but they're spending all of this time just to get to that safety aspect, and that is so huge. I want to get your thoughts on this. You mentioned that courthouse is so close to you. The school administrator who was on the stand earlier mentioned that it is common for their students in their school to use firearms, and even some of their students would keep guns in their car. They couldn't bring them on school campus, but they'd be in their cars. There was not a change of venue in this case, even though the defense asked for one. Do you think if this case had moved to a different location, perhaps Detroit or a different place in Michigan, do you think that would have any impact on how things are viewed?
Yeah, school shootings happen to an entire community. That's it. The whole entire community is never the same, right? If you go to Parkland, Florida, everybody's still traumatized by the school shooting, right? I went to Parkland, Florida with my wife and kids, right? I talk to people. It never goes away, right? I do think that a change of venue, and they did the right thing by even asking for a change of venue. I do think that a change of venue was necessary, but those are almost rarely granted. But Pontiac is a very dangerous, downtrodden town, so it doesn't shock me that kids take guns to school. It's a very downtrodden town. Crime rate is very high. That doesn't change the facts here, but I think a change of venue would have been better for the defense. But after that testimony with the ATF agent, I don't think anything's going to overcome that.
Really difficult to get around. We'll see if he takes the stand and speaks to this jury on his own. That could be coming. We will stay tuned. We understand it may wrap up this week. We have to squeeze in a break. We'll get you back inside of that courtroom in just a moment.
Your Honor, we've marked the pamphlet as, we're going to mark it as 168. I don't know if it was admitted previously. We did discuss it in other witnesses.
Okay, you're moving for the addition of 168.
Yes.
Any objection?
No.
168.
All right. I want to go back to make sure, like the Caltech box, there is the same, these two like little plastic loops. What are those?
So those are designed by the manufacturer so that the case is capable of being locked, so you could actually lock your pistol inside that case.
Okay. When this was found, do you know if there was any locking mechanism in it at all?
There were not.
Okay. Were the 3 guns purchased by James Crumbly, including the SIG for his son. Did they have to be registered?
So it's my understanding, based on prior investigation as part of the task force and as part of this case, that the handguns were required to be registered within the state of Michigan, yes.
And what's the timing on that?
So if you receive a pistol sales record from a federal firearms licensee in the state of Michigan, you have 10 business days to drop it off, or 10 days to drop it off at like a local county sheriff's office, your local police department. In this case, obviously the murder weapon was purchased 4 days before, so there was still some time left to drop that off. Obviously, that never occurred.
Okay. Were any of those handguns registered?
No.
All right. I want to go back to November 30th for a moment, and you said you connected with Lieutenant Marsban, and what was the purpose of doing that?
So the purpose of connecting with him at the time was to help in any way I could. He had started working on a search warrant from the Crumbley family residence, and as part of that, I offered my assistance with whatever was necessary.
Okay. Did you have to watch the surveillance video, or did you watch the surveillance video?
Yes.
Okay. Was there anything notable about it?
Yes, there were 3 things that I watched in the surveillance video from the shooting that I found relevant.
And what were they?
So the first was the stance that the shooter took for the shot that killed Tate. I noticed that he had some type of firearms training. It appeared to me that he did. I remember remarking to the people in the room at the time that that's what I thought. He had taken what we refer to as a shooter stance. His shoulders were rolled forward. His feet were spread. So that was the first thing that I noticed.
And what did that tell you?
I thought he had some level of proficiency with firearms, whether he had been to a gun range, whether he had training, or just been at least introduced to firearms in the past.
Okay. And then the second thing?
So the second thing was what's called a tactical magazine exchange, or what some other departments call a combat reload. So after the shooter moved through the school, and after reloading his first magazine, his firearm was completely empty, so he loaded a fully loaded magazine into the firearm and continued to shoot. After that, after firing several rounds, he ejected that magazine, placed it in his pocket, and then inserted a full magazine into the firearm so that he was fully loaded in the firearm.
And what's the purpose of that? Why is that significant?
So the way we're trained, at least for law enforcement shootings, is that if you're involved in an incident, you always want to have as much ammunition as possible. So if you have a brief moment where the gunfire is low on the gunfire, if you're in a gunfight, would be to eject your partially loaded magazine, insert a full one, but not to throw it on the ground and keep it for later in case you need it.
Okay. What's the third thing?
So the third thing was when the shooter came out of the bathroom and surrendered to law enforcement. Prior to them coming down the hallway, he took the magazine out of the firearm and he forgot to didn't rack it around out of the chamber, so they were still around in the chamber, I believe. But he took the magazine out and placed it on top of a trash bin, which I found unique. Not something that someone would do if they had just committed a mass shooting.
After viewing that, what did you do next as a result of noting those 3 things?
So my responsibility at the time was to help Lieutenant Marsman create a timeline for the affidavit. After noting those things, the following day, the day after the shooting, I began to start an investigation, thinking that the shooter had been to a gun range, contacted a gun range in the area, and confirmed he had in fact been to the range.
How did you know how did you pick that gun range?
It's probably the most popular gun range in the area and for driving distance from the Crumbley residence.
All right, and as a result of your investigation leading to looking at gun range visits, what was uncovered?
So at the gun range, we were able to, it was a gun range in Clarkston, able to locate surveillance video for 2 instances, as well as receipts for visits. I believe there was numerous visits. I believe it was around 8 total visits.
And were there any other tools in the investigation you used to determine visits to gun range and who was there and at what time?
Yes, so in addition to the actual records and surveillance video, forensic review of the extractions of the Mr. Crumbley's cell phone, as well as his son's and Mrs. Crumbley's, put together more visits to the ranges as well as videos of those instances.
All right. going to show, just one moment, Your Honor. Let's start with June 15th of 2021. Do you know why that date's significant?
Yes, that was the date Mr. Crumbley initiated the purchase for the Derringer.
Okay, and the slides,
In People's 169, what are we looking at?
This is a Facebook conversation between James and Jennifer Crumbley on the 15th of June, 2021.
Okay, now time, it says UTC -4, 11:34 a.m. Is that the actual time?
Yes.
Okay, and can you read the text in blue? What does blue indicate? Which person?
Blue is Jennifer Crumbley. Green is going to be James Crumbley.
Okay, and can you read those texts?
Yes, so Jennifer Crumbley asks, talk at 12, and then Mr. Crumbley responds, taking Ethan to store at 12, and then Mrs. Crumbley asks if you get gun.
Okay, and then the next?
Mr. Crumbley.
He's answering her?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Crumbley responds, yes, and Mo, I believe that's supposed to be no. Jennifer responds, huh? And then James says, we paid for the gun and bought it, but can't pick it up till everything clears Washington, in parentheses, FBI. Could be today, tomorrow, or next day, they don't know. And then Mrs. Crumbley responds, gotcha, bring me.
The Facebook messages between husband and wife about that gun purchase. Up next, we will see the video, surveillance video of this father and son at the gun range. What does it say about their body language when they're there? That's on the other side of this quick break. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julia Janae. We continue our coverage of the school shooter dad trial for James Crumbley. He's the father of Ethan Crumbley, who murdered 4 students at Oxford High School back in 2021. Right now, the jury is hearing from a special agent, Brett Brandon, with ATF, who's been showing these jurors the text messages between the husband and wife about the gun that was used and the guns that they owned prior to that. Let's go back into court now.
all right, the message about he had to wait, did you, through your investigation, did it reveal that that's consistent with what happened?
Yes.
Okay, and remind the jury why.
So sometimes when you purchase a firearm, the background may take a little bit of time, depending on a lot of different factors. And in this case, it took enough time to where Mr. Crumbley had to come back the next day to pick up the firearm.
Okay, and then the next exhibit, People's 170, do you know what that is?
Yes, this again is Facebook messages between James and Jennifer Crumbley. Blue is Jennifer, and she says, how much is your gun? And Mr. Crumbley replies, 300.
All right. I'm going to show you what's been marked as, and admitted as People's 29. This is a receipt for, what is it for? Do you know?
This is the receipt for the Cobra, for the Derringer. This is dated 6/15. It says 6/16 at the top, which is the date the actual sale went through, and it's for $180.15.
So this is not $300. Was there a gun he purchased that was $300 that day?
Approximately, yes.
And what gun was that?
That would have been the Kel-Tec P17 22 caliber pistol.
Okay, so the Derringer, the small one, was $169, and this is the receipt for the Kel-Tec. What else is on that receipt?
It's 2 boxes of ammunition at $14.95.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to draw your attention to June 26th, which is about 10 days later. Do you know if James Crumbley went to the gun range on that date?
Yes.
What? One moment. I'm sorry, I skipped a page. Sorry about that. June 20th.
Yes, that's correct.
And the People's 171 is on the screen. Can we tell the jury what that was? What that is?
Yes, this is again Facebook messages between James and Jennifer Crumbley. In blue, Jennifer asks, "Can you guys answer your phone?" And then James Crumbley responds, "No, at gun range, loud."
All right. And People's Did you find any videos through your investigation of the range on that day?
Yes.
And where'd you find it?
On James Crumbley's cell phone.
All right, and you're looking at 172 and 173. We're going to play those for the jury, but before we do, can you tell them what they're going to see?
Yeah, so the first video is at 12:58 p.m. on June 20th, and it's a video of the shooter's son shooting the Kel-Tec pistol at the gun range. And then the following video is a video of the the defendant's son shooting the Derringer at an outdoor gun range a couple minutes later.
Okay.
Same range? Both?
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right. What, if anything, do you see or notice in that video?
In the second one,
Yes.
it appeared he almost shot his hand on during the video.
And why is that?
He had his hand in front of the muzzle of the firearm.
Okay. When you say he, who do you mean?
I'm sorry, the defendant, Mr. Crumley's son.
Okay. The shooter.
Yes.
All right. Did you know? Did James send those videos to anybody that day?
I don't recall if he sent them that day or the next day, but he did send them to Mrs. Crumbly at some point.
All right. And how do you know that?
I reviewed her cell phone as well.
Okay. And Exhibit 174. Can you tell the jury what that is?
Yes. So that is one of the videos being sent on June 21st, 2021.
We're approaching the top of the hour, so we're going to hit the pause button and get you back in on the other side of this break. But let's bring back in National Trial Attorney Michael Jaafar, who is watching this. Michael, the surveillance video, it's loud, it's compelling in the audio sense of it, but is it probative? Does it make some fact relating to this case? Is it more likely to be proven or disproven by just this video?
Had you come to me 30 minutes ago, I would have told you something different than I told you 10 minutes ago, right? 30 minutes ago, I would have told you I don't see how any of this stuff was relevant, and I'm still doing that on the backs of seeing the assistant principal testify about the horror scene, which I thought was not relevant at all, right? But then after he said the thing about the pamphlet and you called it a contract, then my opinion changed. So right now, I'm back swinging towards I don't see the relevance of this. I still think there's a big part of the prosecution's case where they are prosecuting a different case because this is the first of its kind. But I was surprised earlier when the contract was brought up, right? So I could be surprised again. But yeah, right now it doesn't seem to be probative. It just seems like, what's the point? How does this relate to the negligence of the defendant in the courtroom? I don't think it does, but I've been surprised before. I might be surprised again.
Yeah, this is June that we were just seeing the video of, so this is many months before the November shooting, but it seems that they want to show this relationship between the son, and maybe they just want to show that he's aware that his son knows how to shoot. Do you think it's that simple, and maybe why they got over the hump if the defense objected at all?
I didn't think about it until you just brought it up, but yeah, that actually might be one of the probative things, and one of the things they want to establish, that hey, when you bought the gun for your son later on, which was 4 days before he used it, you already knew he knew how to use a gun. So that's another element of the negligence. That might be it. That's a good thought. That might be it. Yeah.
Hindsight or foresight? The defense is going to say it all seems clear in hindsight, but they didn't have the foresight of this mass shooting. Michael Jaafar, thank you so much, as always, for coming on, lending your expertise. We will see you again real soon. But coming up, we have more evidence of the school shooter at the gun range ahead of that deadly killing. You're watching Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice.